Hi guys, so today we are reviewing not one, not two, but three books in one review. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, welcome. On the channel we post writing tips, unboxings, book hauls, book reviews and the occasional vlog. And today we are reviewing three books in one book review video. And the reason for that is because they're all in the same series and they're all very, very short. If you guys haven't seen my review on Before the Coffee Gets Cold by Toshikazu Kawaguchi, that link is above me now. But I adored that book, and so naturally we have book two, book three, and book four. So I read them one after the other to get the review of all of them together. I adored these books so much. This one you will have seen in my unboxing. I went to the bookshop to look for this, couldn't find it, and of course it was sat right on the counter and was signed. I was so excited about getting it. So as soon as I got that, Matt mentioned how I seem to be getting a rather growing collection of Japanese translated books, particularly with cats on the cover. So I felt I should probably make a dent in that. And these three were the same story, so I thought, let's go together. But we're going to start with book two, which is Before the Coffee Gets Cold, Tales from the Cafe. Before we get into that, don't forget, if you like what you see, to subscribe to this channel. Your continued support means a lot, so thank you guys so much. As always for my book reviews, I'll read you guys the blurb first. So I'm going to try to do this as spoiler-free as I can, but just in case, read these books, but this is going to be as spoiler-free as possible. I'm not doing too many quotes because they are all full of short stories, 4 short stories in each book. I don't have too many quotes from each one, but I will summarize them as best I can, but I do apologize if there are any spoilers. I will read you guys the blurb first. Every now and then, a customer like Gotaro would come to the cafe after hearing the rumor that you could travel back in time. Are you familiar with the rules? Kazu asked briefly. There were customers who rolled up at the cafe with no idea of them. More or less, he replied hesitantly. More or less? Kyoko shouted. Gotaro shrugged apologetically. You sit in a chair, someone makes you a coffee, and you return to the past. That's all I've heard. I'm so excited to go back to this cafe. The first story is called The Best Friend. So we're reintroduced to the cafe and the cafe's rules, as well as the characters who we remember from the first book. Though a new story begins, we're also introduced to an old question, which is who is the woman in the seat? This is a question that runs throughout the first book and definitely in the second one. And we get our answer, but also get filled with more questions. The Best Friend tale made me well up, like I actually cried, because it broke the stereotype and had men crying and sharing emotions and showing affection, and also because I could feel the love literally coming off the page. So I really liked The Best Friend. It was refreshing, we got answers, we got more questions, but as I say, just seeing men being able to show emotions and to share affection was really good to see in a book that I didn't expect to see it in. The second story is Mother and Son, and I have a quote from this from page 33. As a child, he was like a dull wallpaper. I find this a very interesting description, and it really creates a picture in your head, calling someone dull wallpaper. It's not a way I'd normally think to describe someone, and yet I have a very clear image of this character. This was a very beautiful story, and it showed a cruel side of the world, but also the kind and beautiful. And we go to dark places of depression in this, so that's just a trigger warning, it gets dark. The third story is called The Lovers, and on page 128 I have a quote. She didn't think he would understand the delicate subject of losing a baby, being a man and all. Now I found that quote really sad, especially considering the first story, The Best Friend, felt really modern. I felt sad seeing the idea that a man wouldn't understand losing a baby just because they can't get pregnant. Men can still understand that. Yes, they won't feel what it feels like to lose a baby when it's growing in you. That's not their fault. But they can still love that baby, even though it's not inside them. It was another story which delved deeply into depression, and we also continue to learn more about the cafe's returning characters. And then the final story, the fourth in this, was The Married Couple. I found it so sad that Japan literally allowed less women into the police than men, even when women were allowed to be in the police. That made me sad. But in this one, all the stories from the previous pages come together. It's another story going into depression with a sad but beautiful ending. We also have a story resolution for our ghost in the chair, and a continuation of the story to come. Now, there's one thing, which is a major point I do need to mention. Look at that front cover. What is on the front cover? It's a cat. There's still no cat in book 2. There's no cat in book 1, there's no cat in book 2. I thought it was beautifully written. Like the first, I loved how all the stories did involve each other. They do come together in the end. I loved how it answered questions from the first book, but also left questions for a further book. This one dealt very deeply into depression, so I'd say depression is the theme of this one for why people are going to the past, but I loved it. I gave it 8 out of 10 stars for the second book of Before the Coffee Gets Cold. And we now go to book 3, which is Before Your Memory Fades. Now this one, again, like the fourth one, I got it signed. I was so happy. Third book, let's dive right into the blurb. The third novel in Toshikazu Kawaguchi's sensational Before the Coffee Gets Cold series. On the hillside of Mount Hakodate in northern Japan, Cafe Donna Donna is fabled for its dazzling views of Hakodate port. But that's not all. Cafe Donna Donna offers its customers the extraordinary experience of travelling through time, and Nagari and Kazu are back to guide 4 new patrons. There are rules to follow. You can only meet people who have visited the cafe, you must stay seated in your chair, and most importantly, you must return to the present before the coffee gets cold. In Before Your Memory Fades, we meet the daughter who resents her deceased parents for leaving her orphaned, the comedian who aches for his beloved and their shared dreams, the sister whose grief has become all-consuming, and the man who realized his love for his childhood friend. Heartwarming and poignant, Kawaguchi explores how holding on to the past can affect our future, and asks the reader, would you travel in time if your actions couldn't change the present? One thing that was odd, we're not in the same cafe as the first 2 books, we've gone to a different coffee shop. I found that jarring at first. I did get used to it. So the first story is called The Daughter. Up till now, I'd say most, if not all, of the customers returning to the past have been polite and understanding. Not this one. They were really aggressive towards everyone. They were really rude. They were constantly asking why, which honestly is a trigger for me. Just like, listen to what someone's saying. Don't be like, why? Who's that? Just let someone finish the story, damn it. So that was fun. But it was really interesting to see a different type of person portrayed. And this is someone who blames her parents because she's been orphaned, and she blames them, and she holds a lot of anger against her parents. The second story is called The Comedian. Now this read so well and was very misleading. So we focus in on the many phases of depression again. So like the second book, this one really goes into depression, and even on learning different types of burnout to be related to the empty feeling of when something's been achieved, which was really interesting. So the second story, it goes into depression, but also, burnout and the feeling you can get after you've achieved a goal and the emptiness you then feel. We also delve further into the mystery of Nagari and why he has not returned to the past to see his deceased wife, because why hasn't he yet? The third story is called The Sister. This one, there's sort of a background book inside the book called The 100 Questions to Ask Before You Die, and I now just really want to read that book because it sounded fun. You'll see why if you read this. But it's another story about grief and also mental health and being happy for others. And then the fourth and final story in this is called The Lovers. And oh my god, the twist, I'm just saying, the ending was... I love the quote at the end of the book, and the last story was fabulous for me. So all of these Before the Coffee Gets Cold books, they deal with some kind of mental, emotional, I don't want to say damage, but they deal with things that people are going through and how they are dealing with this and growing from this pain. But there is also an overarching story which flows throughout, and I'm really happy that's still flowing even through book 3. We still have a hint of mystery with Nagari. There's the question of can people go to the future? And so I gave this one 9 out of 10 stars. I preferred it. The second one, apart from the big question of who's the lady in the chair, kind of felt like a filler. This one feels like the story and the plot has moved on. So 9 out of 10 stars for the second book. Now, you all know it's coming. There's a cat on the cover. There's no cat still. Third book, no cat. It's losing points for that. Partly why they're not 10s out of 10s here. And finally, we have book 4, which is Before We Say Goodbye, which is the 4th book in the Before the Coffee Gets Cold series. I thought this was beautiful. Look how pink it is. Ooh, I never used to like pink. Pink is growing on me more and more these days. But let me read you guys the blurb. The 4th novel in Toshikazu Kawaguchi's internationally best-selling Before the Coffee Gets Cold series. The regulars at the magical cafe Funakula are well acquainted with its famous legend and extraordinary time-traveling offering. Many patrons have reunited with old flames, made amends with estranged family, and visited loved ones. But the journey is not without risks, and there are rules to follow. Travellers must have visited the cafe before and crucially must return to the present in the time it takes their coffee to go cold. In the tradition of Toshikazu Kawaguchi's sensational Before the Coffee Gets Cold series, readers will once again be introduced to a new set of visitors: the husband with something important left to say, the woman who couldn't bid her dog farewell, the woman who couldn't answer a proposal, and the daughter who drove her father away. Featuring signature heartwarming characters and wistful storytelling in the beautifully haunting Before We Say Goodbye, Kawaguchi asks, who would you visit if you could travel through time? Ew. Let's get straight into this one. The first story is The Husband. So what I didn't expect is up until now, all the books go in chronological order. 1, 2, and 3, all of our returning characters grow. In this one, it's not so linear, and I did get confused about that at first. Nagari's daughter is currently still a baby, just saying. On page 13, Kadokura was crawling on the floor with a look of pleasure. Is that enough? Nagari asked. Kadokura panted. Not yet, a little longer. I'm certainly feeling what it's like to be cursed. An experience as precious as this doesn't occur every day. If you say so, Nagari sighed heavily. I've never laughed at a Before the Coffee Gets Cold story before, but this character I absolutely loved. He's an academic and he wanted to know what it felt like to be cursed, and just, I mean, I'm getting kinky things here, like, has he found something he's into? Page 24. He had learned firsthand what it was like to get cursed. It certainly was painful, but not unbearably so. Just as people have pressure points that hurt when pressed, it felt like the pressure points were being stimulated. Now afterwards he even felt refreshed, with a renewed sense of clarity. In fact, after being cursed, his stiff shoulders, a case of long-term suffering, had felt better. Perhaps it was a curse by name, but he thought it could even be considered as a therapeutic massage. Again, this just made me laugh. This guy, I mean, he's obviously into some rough stuff. So although this character was a terrible father and possibly a bad husband, I really enjoyed this character, which I was shocked about, because normally when someone's a bad father or bad husband, it does upset me because of how he's written. I don't know, you feel sorry for him even though he causes a lot of his own problems, but I just love that character. So I actually gave that one, so in this book I actually marked each story out of 10, so we actually get a good review fully at the end, but I gave it 10 out of 10. We then have story 2, which is called The Farewell. It was nice and sweet, a different story about someone losing a pet. It was really lovely. I don't think an animal is being represented in this series at all. I didn't quite like how it kept talking about the animal being a replacement for a baby. You can't just love your pet. You don't need to have it to replace a child. I gave it 8 out of 10 stars. Then we have The Proposal. It was sweet. Personally, she didn't deserve him. Lovely story, I gave 10 out of 10. Now the last one, this is the one I want to talk about. The Daughter. Oh my god, I was in tears, guys. Oh, I've literally wrote the fucker. I cried my heart. Page 151. Bank book. Apparently the people at the port had tried to stop him, saying he should wait till later, but he said, it's my savings for my daughter for when she gets married. You absolute fucker. Oh my god, Toshikazu. This story by far broke me. It's my favourite story in this entire series. I gave it 10 out of 10 stars. It is during the tsunami that Japan had. We all know that disaster. Oh my god, 10 out of 10. So based on all the stories throughout, it was a 9 out of 10 stars, but just that last story alone, I still want to give it 10 out of 10. Seriously, the last story, oh my god. So we've gone back in time a bit. The story ends with sorrow, happiness, and mystery. When is Nagari going to go see Kai? Because it still doesn't happen. And where is the bloody cat? Look, it's a cat. There's still no cat. So, Toshikazu, you better be releasing another one because there's no cat. That's it for my book review of the 3 further books in the Before the Coffee Gets Cold series. I hope you like what you see. Basically, we had an 8, a 9, and a 10 for me. I still love this series. If another one comes out, yes, I will be getting it. And there better be a blooming cat. And thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed that video. If you like what you see, don't forget to subscribe to this channel. If you like to see as soon as I upload, click the little bell down below. You can also follow me on Instagram, Facebook, and Tumblr. I post bookish pictures as well as more writing tips and unboxings on there. And thanks for watching, guys. Bye.